Episode 263. Time for the Pirates to pivot. Okamoto goes to the Blue Jays, so we talk about remaining free agent options and potential trades. You're listening to the Bucco Bantr podcast, brought to you by the Just Baseball Media Network. Cue the music.
Rockin' one-on-ones, yeah, she compliment my taste. Whiskey in my lemonade, cause I like the way it tastes. Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates. Order steak by the plate, send in case after case. Run my race at my pace, clear the grass of the snake.
Welcome back to another episode of Bucco Bantr. Adam, we got a lot to address today, sorta, on one topic. Kazuma Okamoto signed with the Toronto Blue Jays. Not a team that was really talked about a lot in his sweepstakes, but this is a team that's been looking for a third baseman for a few years now. It looks like they got their guy.
They got their guy, 4 years, $60 million, which was right around what we predicted. There was some talk that maybe he's not worth that much or what the market holds for a Japanese third baseman after Murakami and Bregman not signing and Suarez still out there. 4 years, $60 million to go to a team that was quite literally inches away from winning a World Series. So I kind of want to get ahead of this before the internet explodes, right? Because the Pirates have been hanging around. At one point, there was a narrative that they had the best offer on the table or they were front runners. This was all just stuff created by fans that had hope, right? And that hope,
some of it was driven by his agency.
Sure.
Yeah.
But here's what I want to get down to. That hope was created by trading for Brandon Lau, Jake Mangum, Mason Montgomery. That hope was created by signing Ryan O'Hearn. That hope was created by early on taking a chance in Joe Stixon Garcia. Okay? Without that, I don't think the hype is as big as it's being made to be right now. Okay? You missed out on Okamoto. Potential to be a 20 home run plus guy. We don't know what they offered, but even if that offer was 4 years, $60 million, he went to a place where a whole country is behind him, a team that wins consistently, has a very heavy Asian population, and again, very, very close to winning a World Series. So no matter what that offer is, the Blue Jays have significantly more than most out there. Okay, so Kazuma Okamoto to the Blue Jays. The only time we should be talking about him now is when the Pirates face Toronto. That's it. It's done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of that hope was, this is why I hate going on Twitter, but I love it at the same time because I kept saying every day the Pirates were front runners, blah, blah, blah. And we knew firsthand sort of that they weren't. And this isn't just made up or pessimism. Like this is coming straight from the source, right? So, I think obviously Boris was using the Pirates as leverage, and they were definitely involved, especially earlier on. But and I don't know what their offer was. It could have been the same. It could have been more. But he has to choose Pittsburgh, bottom line, and he didn't. But I want to just detract from the idea that not signing Okamoto makes this offseason a failure because that's just fantasy in my opinion. And I want to also avoid, speaking as more of a lecturer because I'm not trying to lecture anybody. I think, the Pirates fan base and us, we're all on the same page and we want the same thing, right? And there's pent up frustration and anger from decades of losing, and totally sympathetic with that. Totally understand that. But Okamoto not signing with the Pirates, I just want to put out there, does not make this offseason a failure. We have added 2 2025 All-Stars to this lineup. Should they be done? No. But they don't need to make the splash moves to make this offseason a success now. I think they could build an Okamoto, or they could replace or upgrade certain positions in the aggregate. And these are some of the options that we put out there over the past few weeks to kind of detract from the Okamoto stuff because we knew kind of where that was headed. That being said, there are options out there. And this team is better than last year. I think as currently stands, they sit at an 80 to 83 win pace, and that is a 500 ball club. Now, that is not including, a couple wins here and there, margin of error. So that could push them into playoff contention. I think adding a few more bats where there are holes, doesn't have to be big signings, makes this team even more better and puts the cherry on top for the offseason. But calling this offseason a failure, I think, would be misguided at this point in the winter.
I 100% agree. That being said, there are holes, right, that people want to address. And as long as free agency is going on, and as long as it's not opening day, we have an opportunity to make some moves to improve this team even more. Okay? I don't think they're done. Like you said, I don't think it's going to be a splash move. And if it is, it's likely going to be Eugenio Suárez.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Suarez first before we give some more realistic options. Okay. Now that Okamoto has signed, Suarez market is going to start to pick up a little bit more here as we go into January. This is a guy who hit 49 home runs last year. Okay. Which at the get-go puts him out of the Pirates range for probably what he's looking for. Okay. No matter how old he is and what he did in the second half of the season, hitting 49 home runs in Major League Baseball is impressive. And
I honestly thought he was a little bit older than it's like he's 34 right now, going to be going into his age 35 season. I thought he was a little bit older. So yeah, go ahead.
He's probably looking for 2 to 3 years. This is going to be his last bag, as the kids would like to call it. He needs to get his money right now. Okay. And listen, he hit 49 home runs. He would have hit 42 at PNC Park. So nobody can make the argument to me right now that he wouldn't be beneficial to this lineup. At a bare minimum, he hits 20 plus. Okay. So now that we're talking with the addition of Suarez, Lau, and O'Hearn, you're talking 70 plus home runs that you didn't have last year. And a guy that can play third base. Now it comes down to what does that contract look like? And the Pirates like to, quote unquote, hang around or put their foot in the water to see what the temperature is without really putting the word out there that they're all in on somebody. And I think that's what's going to start ramping up with Suarez right now is now that the hype with Okamoto is gone, Suarez is the main guy out there because they're probably not going to be in on Bregman. What does that contract look like? And has his market dipped enough where the Pirates are actually interested, right? Has enough time passed where maybe he's willing to take 16 to 17 AAV rather than 20? Because I think that's probably the range that he's looking for, around 2 years, $40 to $44 million.
Yeah. I think they're hanging around right now. They're keeping the tabs open, whatever terms you want to use. They are definitely following the Suarez market. And for what it's worth, Seattle, I'm sure would like to bring him back. There are other teams that need a third baseman that I'm sure would love to have him. I think the selling point here for the Pirates, and this, if you want to be critical of the organization, here's where you can be critical. One space you can be critical. You got to be willing to go opt-outs here. You just have to. I think 2026 is an all-in year, and you got to increase the budget as much as you're comfortable doing so, and then see what happens in 2027 with the whole, lockout forthcoming. But, Suarez is a guy that hit 228, 298, 824, had an 824 OPS last year with 49 homers. That I feel like that average and OBP were driven down by his second half, which he seemed to struggle a little bit in, but hard hit and barrel percentages, even in his older years, are above average. Everything else is pretty mad, but he's the veteran presence, I think, is what is unquantifiable here, that you would bring in a guy that could play third base, could mentor some of these younger guys, and has been in a winning environment. His previous seasons, he had a 788 and 714 OPS with 30 and 22 home runs respectively. So 49 seems like an anomaly a bit. I know Arizona is more of a boombox than Seattle is, but is there some regression coming? Probably with any player at age 35. But I think bringing in a veteran guy like that who's been there, done that, is something that you can't quantify. And, I would definitely be willing to front load that first year and include an opt-out to get it done.
You don't have to travel as much when you play in the NL Central. You travel the most when you play in Seattle. And it's not a hitter-friendly park. I think if Seattle was genuinely interested in Suarez, I think that deal has already happened.
I was thinking the same thing. I think they might have been a sleeper team on Okamoto too, just given Seattle's, a lot of Japanese players liking to play there, giving the location. But yeah, I would think that we'd be hearing more smoke around the Mariners and Suarez at this point.
So Suarez is out there. It was reported that the Pirates are interested. Finally, we hear something. Now it's a matter of just getting it across the finish line. So we could already foresee the future here of the fake tweets going out and following the plane rides to Pittsburgh and him meeting with teams. I'm all in on it. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I want Eugenio Suárez. That would be my main get right now. But let's talk through some other options that are more likely, Scott. And here's one that you've been persecuted for on a pretty large basis. And that's Yoán Moncada. Okay. And before you get into it, I will admit I was skeptical at first. Okay. Just because he's injured every single year. The glove's not great. But when you look at it from the perspective that you painted so beautifully for us on the podcast, if he's going to be a right-handed specialist and he's only going to hit lefties and he's going to platoon with Jared Triolo, 2025, he had an 815 OPS, like you mentioned, versus lefties. 2024, he had an 858 OPS versus lefties. 23, 720. 22 is a bad year. 21, 816 OPS versus lefties.
Versus righties.
Or versus righties. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So,
because he's better from the left side.
From the left side, excuse me, as a left-handed hitter, he's usually north of an 800 OPS. And he's going to hit you 10 plus. He hit 12 from the left side last year. And
I think something that is not talked about enough with his profile at the plate, and especially would be valuable in the DH role. This is a guy that runs really high walk rates and doesn't chase a ton. All right. He had a 234 average last year with a 336 OBP. He's got above average plate discipline. Obviously, I'm not going to argue about the defense and durability being a concern. That is a concern for everybody who talks about Moncada. But you can't tell me right now, look at me in the face and tell me that a platoon of Triolo and Moncada, or just adding Moncada to this lineup as a DH, would be a downgrade or make this offseason a failure. Like, you just can't tell me that, man. I think offensively, like, this team has needed offense, right? Sorry. This team needs offense so badly. And we talked about this with Hembo, and I brought this up many times. You got to sacrifice some run prevention for scoring as much runs as possible. That's what a Moncada signing does for you. And then you got the fallback option of a Jared Triolo to come in and play a really good defensive third base. I do not get the discourse of, like you mentioned, if they sign Moncada, it's a failure. Why? They had no offense. This is a guy who could potentially provide offense at a very cheap rate. You want to talk what the Pirates like doing? It's 1-year deals for like $3 to $4 million. I also don't get the argument that if you're just going to go in on a Moncada, just put the money elsewhere. That makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. If you're not sold on Jared Triolo and you're not sold on Moncada, then to just stick with Triolo and then use that elsewhere, right? Like, take a chance on a guy. Like, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose at this point by giving a guy a 1-year, $3 million deal? If you want the Pirates to go out and spend $125 million and then get mad that it didn't happen, or 4 years, $60 million, and then get mad that it didn't happen, don't get mad if they sign a guy for one year, $3 million that provides a chance to hit 12 plus home runs that you didn't have at the position, and that you probably won't have at the position with Jared Triolo. I know the glove's great. I think there's some upside with the offense if he's able to carry that over, but put Triolo in a better position just hitting left-handed hitters. I mean, at that contract, he's a much better deal than a Tommy Pham. And Tommy Pham gave us a potential Gold Glove left field and turned it on in the second half, but he was a 0 for the first couple months offensively. I would much rather take a Moncada in the lineup over a Pham, different positionally. But we talked about earlier on building this back up in the aggregate, building an Okamoto in the aggregate. There is a world, and I don't think this is far-fetched. Maybe hearing this at first, people are going to be like, you're crazy. There is a world where a platoon of Triolo and Moncada is more valuable than Okamoto this year. We don't know what Okamoto is going to do. He's coming over and playing in the States for the first time against major league competition. I understand that the Japanese league is very competitive, but there's a realistic chance that, you know, Triolo builds off of the second half of last season. If anyone's going to continue believing in Jared Triolo, it's me. Okay, I've made that very, very clear. I still think there's a lot of potential in that bat, and even without the bat, he's going to be at least replacement level offensively and play a plus defense in multiple positions. So I think there's a lot to be excited about with a potential signing of Moncada. Like, it's a 1-year deal. It'd be super cheap, and it could turn out to pay out even more than we expect.
Also, if it doesn't, then you just have Jared Triolo.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
And you should be able to spend the necessary amount of money to fill in some other holes at the back end of the rotation. That's likely going to be a 1-year deal. So do not try and convince me that this is the most absurd thing in the world. Now, I understand if you just are totally not in on some other guys and this is like your priority, then like that's a little bit concerning. If it's just like, hey, forget everyone else, we're here to sign Moncada, we're going to do everything that makes it work. Yeah, that should not be the narrative. That should not be how things work. But as I mentioned a couple episodes ago, if this is a late January signing where things don't necessarily go your way, or you're not able to convince the names like Okamoto and Suarez to come to Pittsburgh, this is fine. Because outside of this right now, Scott, the only other option to strengthen third base, or at least realistic option, is the trade market. And in order for the Pirates to make a trade at this juncture, they're not going to deal from starting pitching, i.e. Mitch Keller. You just can't do it right now. He's too valuable to this team. That trade talk has definitely quieted down or come to a complete stop, where he's going to have to be the guy that's going to eat a lot of innings, because you cannot rely on the younger guys to, one, stay healthy, or two, that they're not going to be on an innings limit. So you need that presence there. So what does a trade look like for a guy like Alec Boehm on a 1-year deal? What does a trade look like for a guy like Josh Young, who has control till 2029? Let's start with Boehm.
I don't think it takes a lot. I've seen a lot of speculation that it would take a lot. I think that's just not true at all. He's in the last year of his deal before he becomes a free agent. He's worth $10.25 million this year. This is a guy that I don't know if they're willing to do this with two guys, him and Brandon Lau. I'm just speculating on how the Pirates operate. I don't think they're going to give up anything of note for him. If anything, it'd be a Thomas Harrington would be the biggest thing of note, and maybe a lower level guy. But like, I got 1 year left on his deal, and if the Phillies are looking to sign Bo Bichette and move guys around their infield, they don't really have a lot of leverage in trading Boehm anyway. But 1 year left. I like the bat, 287, 331, 740 OPS this past year, 11 homers. He's not going to put the ball over the fence a ton. I think I saw on Baseball Savant he would have had 3 total homers in PNC Park this year. You only play half your games there. It's okay. But, you know, he had a 780 and 7064 OPS in the previous seasons with 15 and 20 homers. So he's regressed a little bit this year, but still he puts bat the ball. This is strong bat the ball skills, strike zone awareness, average defender at best. I think he's entering his age 30 season. So like first base, probably not out of the realm of possibility to finish his career. But if this were to happen, it would make a lot of sense and make a lot of sense for the Pirates. It would be on a cheap deal. And I would be surprised if the Phillies get what they're aiming for Alec Boehm, regardless if it's with the Pirates or not.
Yeah, I think you just can't be afraid to hug you're hugging your prospects too much, right? You gotta loosen the grip a little bit. Now, obviously, there's 2 or 3 guys that are pretty much no-goes, maybe just 2 when we're really breaking it down, one of them being Connor Griffin. It's a lot more for me for like Hunter Barco, to be honest with you, or Edward Florentino. So 3, I guess. But I could be convinced on Barco. The Termarr Johnsons of the world, I'll say it, as Merlin Valdez is the world. Well, while I'd like to see that be a little bit bigger of a deal, you have to be okay letting the kids go and find it in some other place if you're going to make this team better in 2026. Mm-hmm. It's just the case, especially if you're going all in. You got to be comfortable being a little bit uncomfortable.
100%. And I'm fully on board with that. I think with a small market team like the Pirates, who have really just recently started drafting pretty well and having some names emerge in their farm system, I think they'd be more hesitant to do so for a 1 year of Alec Boehm. Like if it was a Kettle Marte, I would write down a blank piece of paper, who do you want, right? I think there might be some more hesitation here. But there's also an option here where we talked about, again, building an aggregate. What if you could get 2 guys for the price of Alec Boehm or less that could provide value offensively, defensively, all over the field? And that's where I like to talk about, and you can talk more about Alec Boehm after this if you want, Adam, but Moncada and Willie Castro. Willie Castro is a guy, super utility player, not a sexy season last year, but provides value on the bases and defensively, has some pop, can put the bat on the ball. He's a valuable high floor contributor, and they love their guys that play multiple positions. So I think both of those guys probably could sign for under 10 million total.
Yeah, and I think that's what people are gearing up for at this moment, is signing 2 to 3 guys for those types of contracts. Rather,
and that makes
than,
this team better.
It makes this team better.
Yeah. I'm telling you.
You're 100% right. With the moves that you already made, and then adding another 2 to 3 pieces that aren't the sexiest moves, it does help. You don't need a team full of superstars. Okay. Yeah, the Dodgers do it, whatever. Can't do it here. You just simply cannot do it. So if you're able to use that money correctly, right? Again, it still has to be the right type of moves, but if you're able to do it to supplement what you already have in a proper way, then I think it is beneficial to build that roster up and to have that depth that you didn't necessarily have last year. I mentioned Josh Young as well, coming off from some down years, some injuries. He's under control until 29, only making about $2.5 million in his arbitration years. You're going to have to give up a little bit more to get a guy with some more control, but the upside, man, is really high there at third base. And I'd be willing to let go of a decent amount of prospects, whether it be arms, lower level. You could even throw a Joey Bart in there if they lose a catcher over there, to try and pick it up elsewhere and to clear up that catching room, which we're going to get into in a second. I think that's also a good option that at least you have to check in on.
Yeah, I like Josh Young, and I think if you're giving up multiple prospects, it's just simply due to the fact that he's got years of control,
right?
And he's a high pedigree prospect. There's durability concerns there too, which I think would drive down any top 100 prospects additions. But like, I would include a Thomas Harrington in that. I would include some other notable names if that gets it done. I like Josh Young, and for the price and the years of control, I think that makes a ton of sense. He's shown a lot of promise when healthy offensively.
100%. Well, speaking of catcher, I just mentioned potentially trading Joey Bart in order to maybe get a bullpen arm or in a package deal with a guy like Young. Obviously, he would not be the headline. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Victor Caratini has been brought up on this show, and then more recently amongst the reporters and national news as being a potential fit in Pittsburgh. And the more I think about it, the more I am starting to buy in. Former Astro, has worked with Bill Murphy. Last year played 114 games in Houston, 12 home runs, 104 WRC plus. He's able to spread the ball all over the field. If you look at the spray chart, it's not pull. It's not straight pull. It's all over the place.
Switch hitter too.
He's a switch hitter, a good veteran presence, and he doesn't strike out a ton, doesn't chase. I know there's like, hey, we have Rafael Flores, we have Hank Davis, we have Andy Rodriguez, we have Joey Bart. You got 4, you got none. Okay. Henry's going to stay because he's going to catch Paul every 5 days. And then I think you supplement that with Caratini.
But I could see a scenario where Paul feels comfortable throwing to Caratini, because this is not a guy that's a slouch defensively, right? Plus, he's known for his plus makeup, his strong arm, keeps the ball in front of him. He's a plus blocker. He's 32 years old. He's been around some winning teams. Like you said, Bill Murphy has some experience with him, and he's coming off a career year in home runs. He had 12 this year. I think the last 2 years combined, he had 15, but this is a guy that's far from a zero offensively too. So when you can get a plus behind the plate offensively, I think, and someone who's not going to cost a lot either. I mean, I'm sure he's probably going to want between 5 to 10 million coming off this year, but I'd do this tomorrow.
I think it's a 2-year deal, to be honest with you. I think he wants 2 years. I think he was already making around 8.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's probably, unless like the market really crashes, I think he's probably going to want something in that realm. Worth it. I think if you're going to spend your money elsewhere to strengthen this team and you want to add power, you want to add slug, why not do it behind the plate?
But does that make Andy Rodriguez expendable? I would think so, right?
Yeah, man. Listen.
Joey Bart. I think that gives you more. They were dealing from pitching to start the offseason, and I don't think they want to deal anyone in the rotation any longer. Maybe prospect-wise, they'd consider it, but this gives you more flexibility to make moves, maybe add a bullpen arm, maybe get deeper elsewhere.
Yeah, at this point, Endy's not going to yield you a crazy return. Like you said, maybe a bullpen arm, but
Package them.
You can't be a catcher with significant arm injuries year after year. It just can't happen, man. Like, as much as I love Endy and the character that he is and what he brings to a clubhouse, and he seems like he enjoys playing baseball, which sometimes can be rare for these guys, right? Like, you want guys that love the game. It seems like Endy loves the game, but he can't stay healthy. If we can't get that sample size, you can't afford to just keep trotting him out there hoping that it's going to work out, because it's one of the last pieces of a trade that you made a couple years back. So Endy's probably going to be in AAA. You already have a crowded room. You know Henry's most likely going to be there because he's improved so much defensively. And I think you mentioned it. He could be what Austin Hedges is to this team. Austin Hedges, as much as Pittsburgh hated him, is one of the best defensive catchers in baseball.
He'll have a job for as long as he wants, to be honest with you.
Right. And he's found a home in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And he's been a really good presence there. So I think there's a route where Henry keeps his job here, even if the bat isn't good and he's able to catch Paul or work in with a Caratini. But I think it's the end of the road for Endy, unfortunately. And I think you could deal that piece, and you could deal a Joey Bart in order to strengthen other parts of this team that aren't going to be significant, but could help in the long run or help with the fluidity of a bullpen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And before we close out, Adam, I want to talk about two other options that have been brought up to my attention via text and whatnot at third base real quick. Luis Suarez. All right. Luis Suarez is still a free agent. Elite contact hitter, man. Like basically the Tony Gwynn of our era, but doesn't really do anything but put bat on ball, right? Swings at everything. Doesn't walk at all. He's extreme liability defensively. Can't even really play first base. Hasn't played third base since April 2022. So I just want to put it out there that I don't think any team, let alone the Pirates, is looking at him to play third base. Also, I think they believe they have their Luis Suarez and Jake Mangum in a way. And this is a guy who's younger and is a plus defender and a plus base runner. He brings value in many different parts other than with his bat. He's a switch hitter. So I think they might already have that type of guy for the top of their order or wherever they put him in the lineup. Lastly, I want to talk about Ramon Urias. Is a guy we haven't really talked about a ton. He's a third baseman that's a free agent. Hit 11 home runs last year, but 241, 292, 676 OPS, plus range at third base. But how is he different than Jared Triolo? Like, probably not. And Jared Triolo can play multiple positions and is younger, and maybe Urias provides a little bit more pop. I just don't see that being much of an upgrade. So I would much rather go with a Moncada Castro combination, or just combining Moncada with Jared Triolo, if you ask me.
There's a lot of time left in free agency right now. We have over a month until pitchers and catchers report to Bradenton. Speaking of Bradenton, we're going to be down the first week of March. So if you're down there, make sure you say hi. We're going to have a lot of fun things planned. If you go to our new website, it's awesome. You can get all of the episodes there. It could bring you to the YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to. If you want to sign up for an email list to get exclusive content from Bucco Bantr, all you have to do is type in your email on the About or the Join Us page, or it'll pop up on your screen. It'll send you an email. Make sure you confirm that email so you're up to date with everything happening with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Go to the Bucco Bantr store, get all of your merch, subscribe, like, leave a comment, tell a friend to tell a friend. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast, make sure you download the episodes so you know when they're coming out. Leave a 5-star review. That helps us out a ton. It really does. We're excited still, man. I know there was a lot of excitement built up with the posting date, and there's something addicting about having a deadline for a guy and the clock ticking. But there's a lot of time left for this team to get better. And while it's the offseason and they're not playing baseball right now, you got to believe that they're trying to do that. Okay. Change my mind.
This team is better. This team is better. How better, we will see. So you stay in touch. We got a lot of offseason left, believe it or not. I know pitchers and catchers report in a little bit over a month, but got a lot of off season left, so a lot can happen between now and when we report to spring training.
Absolutely. If you need a way to relax, by the way, and you're trying to cool down, no better place than Mind Fuel in the Strip District. We have a great partnership with them while we're doing cold plunge interviews, but you yourself could experience a cold plunge, sauna, meditation, whatever you need to clear your mind of all these free agency rumors. I think Mind Fuel is the place for you. If you go to their website, mindfuelmethod.com, and use the code, all caps, Fuel Good, FUELGOOD. Again, that's Fuel Good. You'll get a free session on us. It's an awesome place. I go every day. I think you should too. Go to mindfuelmethod.com for your free session. And Scott, until next time, raise it.
Raise it.
Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates, or the steak by the plates and